Hello, this is Tyler Schnell with Option Trading Coach. I've been trading stocks and options for over 20 years. And 10 years ago, I created a video that I never released to the public called The Power of LEAPS. And in this video, you're going to learn a strategy that I've cultivated, I've mastered, and I've had a lot of success with trading, investing through long-term options known as LEAPS. So 10 years later, this strategy has been more relevant and effective than ever before because this is happening week after week, month after month, year after year. And I wanted to introduce this video to you to make sure you watch it. And after you watch it, I have the Power of Leaps Part 2, which is talking about trades that have happened in 2023, 24, 25 now, and beyond into 26 and 2027. So the beautiful thing about this strategy is it gives you time. It gives you freedom to let it work. You don't have to overmanage it. You don't have to sit in front of a computer all day. And a lot of my past students loved trading leaps because of that exact reason. So dive in. I want to hear your comments, your feedback, your questions, and I look forward to hearing about your success trading leaps. And if you haven't done so already, make sure you like and subscribe to our channel on YouTube, and I'll see you inside the Power of Leaps.
Hello and welcome. For those of you joining us for the first time, my name is Tyler Schnell, founder of Option Trading Coach, and I'm a professional full-time stock and options trader with over 14 years of market experience. And I'm about to show you one of my favorite wealth building and income producing strategies known as trading leaps. Now, I want you to know that the market has never been more transparent than it is now, and it's really the best time to become a self-directed trader or investor. The stock market, it's more efficient than ever. Commissions have never been cheaper. The technology is always increasing, offering robust platforms and mobile platforms for just versatility wherever you are. And options now that have been really manifested with weekly options have never been more prevalent by offering boundless opportunities to profit in any market trend, up, down, or sideways. And all that's well and good, but what I really want to talk about is you and the importance of learning how to manage and grow your portfolio effectively using stocks and options, because you have to use options to really have the versatility. So whether you're brand new to the stock market or a 20-year trading veteran, you have to pay close attention, because what I'm about to show you, it can and will drastically transform your financial future and really how you invest.
Before I show you about some of the trades I've done using this strategy and why I love it so much, I want to make sure you understand the LEAPS trading strategy. LEAPS are basically long-term options, and they work on either a call or a put, the only two types of options out there, and they carry expiration dates up to 3 years away. And because of that long duration in expiration, they offer extremely lucrative profit potential because so much can happen. A lot could happen in the market in one day or a week, more or less several months or even years. That's really the main culprit of why these are such beneficial products for you to trade and invest in. Now, the word LEAPS, it stands for long-term equity anticipation securities, and they contain far less negative theta than shorter-term options. They can be sold well before expiration for a profit or a loss, so I don't want you to think that you have to hold this for 3 years or 2 years or whatever the duration is on your LEAPS contracts. You can sell, the same day you buy it if you want. And if the trade goes against you, you can definitely cut your losses short, and you would never lose your entire investment if you wanted to. So you can, and you often will, sell before expiration. Also, they can be traded on stocks, indexes, and ETFs. And LEAPS are far less volatile than shorter-term options because of that. The theta is much less. So that's one factor. The other factor is the implied volatility is also less. A lot of times shorter-term options are more rich in premium versus the longer-term ones because a lot could happen on an intraday or even an intra-month basis with earnings events and company announcements and so forth. So a lot of times the farther out expiration months, like the LEAPS options, have less implied volatility and they're less volatile, which also means less intraday fluctuations. And also, I want you to know that LEAPS trade just like normal short-term options as far as all of the mechanics and how they're regulated through the exchanges and the expiration. The only difference is that they expire in the month of January, but everything else holds true. They expire the third Friday of the month, and everything else is just basically the same as a shorter-term option except for that expiration date. They can profit, and you can use these to profit in an up, down, and an even sideways market. They can be used to produce monthly income or even weekly income now that we have weekly options out there by selling shorter term options on your longer term options, which is a little more advanced, but you will be introduced to that in this video. And that's basically legging into or creating what's called a time spread, whether it's a calendar or a diagonal. And then also LEAPS only expire in the month of January. So that's really important that you understand. And they can be purchased at all different strike prices for more or less risk. And then the last thing is that you have a compound wealth building effect with these tools. They're a phenomenal way for you to compound your money, for it to grow exponentially when you're right, because it has what's called a positive gamma. So in the last video, you learned an overview of the option Greeks. I mean, really, if you can understand the option Greeks, and I know it's probably a little Greek to you if you're just learning the business, but understand that if you can just learn a few key things, and if this is completely confusing to you, do not worry, because I promise you, you'll get up to speed here in due time. But understanding a few elements can really change your overall perspective on how to invest, how to trade, and understanding what to do and how to do it. Okay, this here was actually the first LEAPS trade that we did. And I say we because my dad and we learned this business together over the last 10, 15 years. And he was my trading partner kind of going through this. Now I really trade on my own, but some of these trades I can't take credit for all of them, but I was definitely directly involved in all of them. And this first one here was back in 2006, and it was on Google. 2 years after it went public, stock was trading around 135 a share, purchased 25 LEAPS options out to the January 2007 expiration at the 200 strike price, paid $2.25 per contract. So again, option contracts are standardized to 100 shares of stock. So for every one contract at $2.25, it would cost you $225. So that would equal a $5,650 investment, which is what that was. We put the trade on right here at number one. That's when we basically bought the contracts. It was a very simple trade. It made a lot of money really fast. We basically doubled our profit and sold it for 100%, but we sold too early because didn't have a sell signal. And because of that mistake, yes, it was still a winning trade, but it was a bad trade because missed out on over $100,000 in profits. It was a tough, but it was a good lesson, and it really set the stage for me of what this business could provide. Really kind of started really opening my eyes to LEAPS and just showing me what's possible with this. Which brings us over here to Apple, which I've been trading very actively the last really 7-8 years. But back in 2007, this was before the iPhone, the first iPhone came out, purchased 200 long-term call options. January 2008 was the expiration at the 200 strike price. Paid about $2.15 each. This was about a $42,000 trade. This is what the chart looked like. Started building the position right here at number one, added to the position at number two, and we scaled out of the position over a 6 to 9 month period. So this was something that really went well out of the gate. A lot of excitement with that new iPhone coming out. And this trade was a very successful trade. You can see a lot of the strategy you can be learning with these LEAPS options that I've been trading these last 8 years very actively. I like scaling in and scaling out because it's very effective. You're never going to call a bottom. You're never going to call a top. But what you can do is you can increase and really average up and average down your cost basis to preserve capital and to also increase your profit potential. So this is where we scaled out at number one, number two, and then number three. So as it started moving in favor, it just started taking off, 5 contracts, 10 contracts at a time, because this was a very large position. And again, you don't ever want to put more than 20% of your account in one underlying trade. So this was definitely a large trade, but I don't want you to think like, oh, put your whole entire account in one trade. That's a great recipe to blow your account up and really go bust, and I don't recommend that. Sold several contracts. The price per contract was everywhere between $12 and $58 each. So again, options are standardized to 100 shares of stock. So that would be $1,200 to $5,800 per contract, which is a very handsome return. If you were going to take that and create, we made over $500,000 in Apple on this trade. I remember the ticker symbol was ABRAT. I wrote a journal about it. I have a whole story about this in my ebook that I wrote if you want to read more about the intricacies of how it all manifested and everything. But this trade produced over $500,000, and it was about a 1-year duration between start to finish, and it was almost a 1,200% return. Very successful trade. That's probably why we all have Apple products in my family. I have probably 7 Apple computers. Every iPhone that comes out, always get it, because a great thing is if you can trade this stock well and you can make money with it, then you're going to reinvest your profits in the actual company that you're making money in. And it's just a fun little joke that we always talk about. And definitely, hopefully, some of you out there can also relate if you have been holding on to Apple the last few years. And the next one here was actually a huge trade. This was in 2009. Purchased 100 call leaps, and these were the January 2010. Actually, let me show you the chart first here. This is on ISRG, and ISRG is Intuitive Surgical. It's basically they create the Da Vinci robots for surgical practitioners and so forth. And this trade was a two-part trade. So first of all, you can see that there was a really strong support level right after it was initiated. And I'm going to really explain this as best as possible because this was a really fun trade, and I can actually show you some live video footage on a specific day during this trade where we made $144,000 in one day. I have complete live video proof. I'm not lying. This is a
live here from Virginia Beach. Just want to refresh my browser here. It's the New York Times. It's about 3:50, 3:55, couple minutes before the market closes. I want to give you an overview of the amount of money that was made between some of our different accounts today, strictly trading LEAPS options. So first account we're going to open up here is a personal account, and I'm going to give you a overall synopsis of all the accounts and the amount that was made, and just kind of get you excited and see what's possible when you're trading LEAPS. These are all real accounts. You can see that the market here is closing in 2 minutes, so we're going to catch it perfectly right at the end. And I'm going to scope up all my accounts, so you can see this first login has a couple accounts inside of it, and this is the profit and loss for the day. So we're going to go ahead and tally that on our dashboard over here. 270 dollars. We'll round off right there. It's still ticking. Okay. The next account is also had a pretty good day here. Let me pull up the next one. In this account, the tally for the day is probably looking around 30. Let me look at that again. About 33,000. So we'll say 33.1. Okay, $33,100. Actually, yeah, you can see right there, 33.3. So we're a little off. Okay, one more account. We got a minute left. You can see here. These are live accounts. These are not paper trading accounts. This is live, real action, in your face trading and proof of income and money that was made trading this strategy that I'm trying to teach in this course. Next account is the Big Daddy, and we are going to pull that up. And this was a lot of money was made in this account today. So cumulatively, we're looking well into the six figures today. And you're going to see here all accounts, $98,000. Okay. So let's pull back up the rest of these numbers. $98,000. Okay. So those are the three accounts that I just showed you. Live trades. These are all made, if you look at the previous videos, these are all made in strictly LEAP option trading. Okay. The market is officially closed. Everything is holding. This is accurate information. You just heard the bell. Market is closed. It is done. $98,000 day. Pretty impressive. Let's go ahead and tally it up. So we got 98,000 plus 33.1 plus 13.2. Okay, $144,300 in profit trading LEAPS options today using this system. That is how powerful trading LEAPS is. And the most amazing part of this is all this profit was made with just a couple $1,000 initial investment. There was no huge investment. Some of these trades went from $1,000 and $2,000 trades to 30 and 40 grand, and they get parlayed and they grow and they compound, and it's just a snowball effect of just, it's very, very powerful. So you can see here 144 grand one day, live accounts. This is completely for real. This is not fake or simulated whatsoever. I want to help you out and teach you this strategy. It's very exciting, very powerful stuff, and I look forward to helping you out on the inside.
And this is when we started building the position. So this number one right here is when put on the first 100 contracts of those January 2010 200 strike price options. So the stock was trading around 115, 110 actually when we first put it on. There was two parts there, but the first part was put on right here at number one. And then the second part, which is the other options that were out for an additional year, the January 2011 250 strike prices, those were purchased at $1.70 each. So cumulatively, it was about a $36,000 trade. And again, as with something that you're going to see that kind of carries through a lot of these trades you're going to be learning, scaled out of this position over a 10-month period. It really made money really fast. And it was something that I found. I found this trade. This was my trade. So this is something that I'm really proud of because this is what set the stage for me in creating Option Trading Coach, because it only takes one of these trades to change your life. When you have a trade that can make you an exorbitant amount of money in a relatively short amount of time, we're talking under a year, then it can do a lot for you financially. And this is definitely true here. You can see it had a, kind of follow my cursor as I explain this, we had a nice strong support level in here. And there's some bullish candlestick formations. There's a lot of other advanced technicals that I really can't get into right now, but you can kind of get the gist of how everything was lining up. The options were beautiful. I remember looking at all the. I remember this trade like it was yesterday. I mean, it was like 6 years ago, but I remember all the options looked really good, and it was just a phenomenal. Just everything lined up beautifully. And as we started moving in our direction, this day actually right here, where you see this massive green bar, that was an earnings day. You can see this little earnings icon right there. I remember this day like it was yesterday. That was when we made $144,000 in one day. It was on an earnings beat. They had a huge beat, and the stock went up like 15 or 20%. And I remember like when the bell opened, we were up over $100,000, and then it was just like, all right, so this has definitely worked out well. Started taking off the position, and just kind of scaled out of it throughout the rest of the year to where you see it kind of here. And then as it started creating a top, it hit resistance up here around 350. And when you have options that you buy that are out of the money, which is the other thing I want to point out, purchase these options, the stock was at 108 and 115 on the second part right here, 120. And then we were able to really become what's called in the money. So when you buy an out of the money option, it's you're buying an option that's $80 out of the money. Your strike price is up here at 200 on these first legs. And by the way, that first leg made about $275,000 on a $19,000 investment, which is about a 1,400% return, and that actually manifested in less than 6 months. And that's something that you can always understand, is that when you have trades that make you a lot of money really fast, it's great to scale out and take off at least your initial investment so that you're kind of trading on the house's money. And then the other part of the trade was the 250 strike price call options that had an additional year on it, and those were sold and they scaled out up here around the 3 and 4 parts. Kind of got, as it started moving and hitting resistance, took the last off over at number 4, and that actually resulted in $350,000 in profits, and that was over a 2,000% return in less than 12 months. I mean, this was definitely the trade. Made over $600,000 in it. It was less than 1 year. I wrote all about this as well in my ebook if you want to learn more about this and how it all manifested. But this is definitely a 100% true live story, and it's something that set the stage for me in my career in creating Option Trading Coach. And then over here we have another trade. This was an AGQ in 2011, purchased 25 call leaps. These actually weren't legitimate leaps because leaps always, remember, expire in the month of January. These actually expired in June, but they still had like 24 weeks on them, so they were long-term options, and they kind of fall in the realm of leaps. The strike price that were purchased was the 200 strikes, paid $4.10 each. This was a $10,000 trade that I put on. This was the chart at the time, and if you don't recall or if you're not familiar, there was a really big silver boom back in 2011 and into early 2012 that was just astronomical. It was insane. And this is what the chart looked like. This is where we put the trade on. This is actually one of my personal trades at number 1. And this scaled out of this position. This was only a 5-month duration on this trade. It was basically one and one. I mean, sold 5 contracts at a time between the prices of $22 to $85 a contract. So the average price is probably around 45. This trade resulted in a $100,000 profit, a little over 100,000. So the first initial 25 contracts were put on right here at number one, and then when we hit this level in here, started scaling out. Right around April, May of 2011, it was selling 5 contracts here, 5 there, 5 here, and just kind of churning capital and taking out profits as it was really just going higher, because it's hard to forecast when you're hitting these new highs. It's like it could crash like it did right over here, which is what you don't want to have. And I didn't definitely miss the top by a lot, but there was still a great profit in here, and if you didn't sell in here and you kind of held over here, it would have collapsed on you. So you can't. Another thing I want to stress: you can't go broke taking profits. You can't go out of business taking profits. You want to have some consistency. You want to have some synchronicity in how you do things, so that you don't have an erratic trading system. But always remember that you're not going to go broke taking profits, even if you don't get it perfect. This trade resulted in a 1,050% return, and the duration was less than 5 months. Now over here, this was a recent trade actually on Netflix, and I actually have a video in YouTube all about this trade that's about 20 minutes long. It's gotten plenty of views, a lot of good feedback. Definitely welcome you to check it out. This is basically purchasing 40 LEAP options. In January 2014 was the expiration month. 160 was the strike price. Paid $4.20 per contract. It was a $16,000 trade that I made. And you can see right here, actually, I remember this trade. This is actually a recent trade, so I'm going to show you some live order book details in the next slide here. But number one was that's when I started putting the position on. I bought like 20 contracts right here, and I lost a lot of money. I was literally down like over probably $5,000, $6,000, maybe close to $10,000 even in this little period right here when it fell back. And what I did was I added to the position. So this number 2 right here, I was like, you know what? I still like the stock. It has a very high resistance level. It used to trade like $300 a share before this. You can't really see it back over here, but we had a double bottom in here, a lot of bullish candlesticks. And you know what? I said this trade still has so much time for it to work. I'm going to add to it. So I added to the position, brought my cost basis down to roughly $4.20 a contract. It was still about a $17,000 trade total, but I had a lot of time for it to work. And you can see over here, started scaling out of the position, sold 20 contracts at number 1. That brought in $40,000. So I got my initial $17,000 back, and I still had 20 contracts on the house. They're practically free. And what I'm going to show you here is going to be really cool. You're going to kind of get introduced to the whole income production aspect. But this was a trade that I scaled out of literally 5 different times. And this was kind of me getting a little more advanced, throughout the last few years here, using this strategy year after year and having success with it. And there's been some losers, but the winners far outweigh the losers. The biggest loser I've had the last 2 or 3 years was probably in 3D Systems, which was last year and a little bit into this year. But again, that loss is literally dwarfed by the profits in these different trades. So you can see the last part that I took off was over here in August of 2013. Sold number 2 right here. I've sold a little ahead of myself. I just love talking about this stuff. This right here, I sold 5 at $37.50. That brought in $18,750. Then I sold 10 at number 3 right up here. I mean, again, it's kind of hard to get it perfect. I mean, I'll show you in a minute here if I held it through the end, how much it would have made. But there's a bearish engulfing right there. You think it's hitting its head. It's hard to get it perfect. So I learned, and I think you can also agree with me, that if you scale out, it's a lot better selling a little bit here, a little bit there, than selling everything at number 1, because then you miss out on all these extra profits. So number 4, we sold 2 at $71.50 a contract. That's $7,100 per contract. And then the last one, we sold. I sold 3 at $103, which brought in $30,000. And to show you the order book on this, these are actually the filled orders out of my brokerage account. And you can see there's a couple of different things going on in here, and I want to explain this to you. I got put into the stock a little bit because I was selling and I actually made more money than what you saw there. I mean, the trade made over $100,000, but I was able to also produce monthly income by selling these calendars and these diagonal spreads, which is a positive theta trade, and it's something that you can do when you have these long-term LEAPS options. So these are all the different, executed orders on Netflix. You can see the dates when I started selling them. I sold 1 here, 4 here. So I mean, that last example, that was a very accurate, but you can see the exact numbers here. $19 was the cheapest I sold for. And then if I sold, if I held all of my 40 contracts to the last sale price at 103, then it would have made over $400,000. I mean, the trade, it was called a $17,000 trade. If I had held it to July 22nd, 2013, then it would have made about 450 grand. That wasn't the case, but again, there's always another trade. Can't worry about it. You're never going to get it perfect. That's just a little proof there. This is the snapshot out of the account showing you the 114,000 that the trade made. There's also some other winners in there as well. The overview of this trade was purchased the January 2014 160 calls. Quantity was 40 contracts. The average contract price was $4.20. Total investment of $16,700. The average contract sale was $35, and that the duration of the trade was about 1 year. Again, part of the trade was taken off well before a year, but overall it was about a 1 year duration. And the total return on this trade was 833%. So not a bad return. I have another trade here for you I can show you, which is on Facebook. Facebook was a recent trade in 2013 as well, and into 2014. Purchased 25 call leaps at the $40 strike price for January 2015 expiration. Paid $1.44 each for these, so it was a smaller trade, about $3,600. But this is showing you, you've seen examples of a $40,000 trade, and now, I mean, it's all relative. And I don't want you to think you have to have a lot of capital to do this. You really don't. You can buy one contract and still be in the game. And it's just a matter of practicing and doing the things that you're not doing yet to increase your results and get the results that you're looking for. So this was a trade that I put on back here in May of 2013 is when I started it at 0.1, which was big. Oh, I'm getting ahead of myself there. But anyways, one right here. So the first couple months in the trade was down, and I remember this very vividly because actually I was on a cruise in Italy actually, and I was down a good amount of money on the trade, but I still had a lot of time. Again, you're probably seeing some repetition here and some patterns. Added to the position, brought my cost basis down significantly, and I wish I bought a lot more here because I remember I paid like 65 or 75 cents right here to add to these to kind of create this $1.44 average cost basis. But I sold my first lot, basically 10 of the total 25, to get back my initial investment plus book about a $1,300 profit. That was at 0.1 after positive earnings. Probably should have held it, but again, I was happy with the profit. I wanted to get back my initial investment, and I still had 15 contracts remain. And then I sold 10 more over here at number 2 to bring another 5,000. So that's all profit. And then I sold the last 5 over here at 0.3 to bring in another $38.50. And I sold those at $7.70. And I remember following this trade after I was out of it. And of course, I've still traded Facebook since then, but I remember that this trade, these contracts were traded upwards of $30 a contract. So I definitely didn't hit this one that great, but it was still a relatively good return. To show you the order book here, this was the trade, made over $10,000 in that example. The overview here would be purchased the January 2015 40 strike price calls. 25 contracts was the quantity. The average contract price is $1.44. The total investment was $3,550. The average contract sale was $5.52. Trade duration was 5 months. And in 5 months, it made almost 400%. So that's not a bad return for 5 months. I think you could agree with that. And really the whole point of me showing you these trades is to show you that I know what I'm doing. I've done it. I've had success. I've also had failure, but I've learned from the failure. I know what works. I have a really sound, strategic way of approaching the market. This is one of many strategies that I use. I would love for you to just try this. Paper trade. Understand what's available for you. Be able to go into the market and have the confidence to put these trades on. And the great thing about trading leaps is that it requires less capital. So you can have, if say you bought 100 shares of XYZ stock and it cost you 10 grand, you can buy the long-term options or the leaps for 5 grand, have the same or less, and have the same directional risk. And that's huge. So I hope you got some value from this.
And that concludes the power of leaps. I hope you got some enjoyment from my 2009 excerpt there of the $144,000 day on ISRG. A lot's happened the last 15 years, and the one thing that remains true is this strategy is a testament. It's going to continue working for you. So make sure you like and subscribe to the channel, and also stay tuned and be on the lookout for the Power of Leaps Part 2. Thank you so much, and I'll see you in Part 2.